And in other news, my name is EhrenEmm. We have a channel called Question Period Canada, but this is in other news.
Hey everyone, quiet down. There's a bulletin on TV.
And now for this news flash.
Go ahead on the point of order. You can, Ms. Khalid. I've recognized Mr. Barrett to start because his hand was up.
The meeting hasn't, nope.
As soon as the gavel dropped, you can challenge me if you like. Challenge me.
That's absolutely fine, but I would like an update as to why we have committee business today when we have so many motions that we've had to go through.
Alleged that Conservatives are bringing forward frivolous ethics complaints. I would remind Ms. Shanahan, through you, Mr. Chair, of the litany of guilty findings by the Ethics Commissioner with respect to key figures in this government. We have the Prime Minister, who was found guilty of violating the Conflict of Interest Act, not once, but twice. The first Prime Minister in Canadian history to be found guilty of breaking the Conflict of Interest Act. Wow. Oops. Wow. Randy is in Vancouver. Well, the minister, turns out, was in Vancouver on September the 6th.
Hey gang, what's up? Just Aaron right here, Canadian Looney. We're going to shoot one here in this studio. It's too windy in Guysborough to record audio today. It is blowing a gale out there. Speaking of blowing a gale, Randy Boissonnault is back in the hot seat in committee. He's not here answering questions, but these guys are looking for him. And the Liberals, Iker Khalid has her points of order. Brenda Shanahan is here trying to divide, distract, confuse Canadians. You know, the Liberal tactic playbook. Shanahan is a disgusting woman. Absolutely brutal to watch and listen to. And Iker Khalid, me. What a spoiled problem child that piece of work is. Fortunately, we've got Michael Barrett, Michael Cooper, and Garnet Ginu that are demanding that they get Randy's ass back in the chair to answer these questions on his corruption. Now there's ties to coke deals, all of these other brutal things. He's pretending that he's an Indigenous person so that he can apply for oh my God, it's so brutal, guys. Let's get into the committee meeting. We're going to kick it off here with Barrett. Khalid and Shanahan stick their dirty noses in as often as possible, but these cowboys can handle themselves. Let's take a look. These committee meetings, guys. Someone's got to shut Iker Khalid down. Oh my God, she's so gross. Let's take a peek. They're going to get Randy Boissonnault. You're going down, Minister of Employment, little gimp, loser, stealing from Canadians, little weasel. Let's take a peek. Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead on the point of order.
I would like to seek two clarifications from you.
Number one.
With respect to a status update on Twitter documents and at some point in today's meeting,
Okay.
but also with respect to how do you decide who gets recognized in this committee? I have had my hand raised on multiple occasions, and I know that I've been the first person to have raised my hand on meeting after meeting after meeting, and yet you don't recognize me. I'm just wondering, can we count on your nonpartisanship as,
Yes, you
as chair of this committee? I'm not done
Ms.
talking,
Khalid.
Mr. Chair.
You can, Ms. Khalid. I've recognized Mr. Barrett to start because his hand was up.
The meeting hasn't, nope.
It did. As soon as the gavel dropped, you can challenge me if you like. Challenge me.
That's absolutely fine, but I would like an update as to why we have committee business today when we have so many motions that we've had to go through and so many issues that we needed to get through, and yet we're having another committee business meeting today, which doesn't help us understand because we haven't seen any work plans from you, we haven't seen any witness lists from you, we haven't seen how we are going to conduct ourselves with respect to all of these motions. and I don't understand why we had a committee.
So I was going
meeting
to
today.
update the committee before
No,
your point of order.
Chair, clearly
Yeah.
you passed the floor to Mr. Barrett,
Well, I saw
which
his
is your
hand.
right, absolutely,
Yeah.
you know, because you only see that side of the floor. Great, good for you. But I would like to know what exactly it is that we're doing here. If we're having a committee business meeting, then I would like to know what is the committee's business from you, Chair, from all of these motions that we've passed, with all of these witnesses that we've submitted on all of these various studies, and yet we have no idea as to what it is that we're doing, except for calling motion after motion
Yeah,
and
so-
just only referring to Mr.
You want me
Barrett.
to, you
Mr.
want me to
Barrett
answer
might
the
as well
question?
be.
You want me to answer the question?
Mr. Barrett might as well be the chair of this committee.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so the committee business was to update the committee on where we're at with witnesses. We had some challenges based on the fact that the motion was passed last Tuesday on the CRA. So as it stands right now, I wanted to update the committee that on the 19th, we've got the Privacy Commissioner scheduled. We have got H&R Block, so we just couldn't get anybody scheduled for today. H&R Block is also scheduled, and then on the 21st, we're still waiting to hear from the minister. The request has been made to have the minister appear before the committee, and then we're going to have the commissioner of the CRA. The challenge is that some of the commissioners are out of the country, and so we've been able to schedule those for the week of the 19th when we get back. I've got Mr. Barrett followed by Mr. Villemure. Go ahead, Mr. Barrett, please. You have the floor.
Chair, I'm going to move a motion in regards to Minister Randy Boissonneau's involvement in global health imports and the firm's contracts with the Government of Canada. The committee called the following witnesses: Shauna Parker and Felix Papineau of Global Health Imports, Minister Randy Boissonneau and Melvina Gowie. I've sent that to the clerk in both official languages, Chair, and I'd like to speak to the motion.
Okay, the motion is in order. Madam Clerk, have you shared that motion with members of the committee? It'll be coming around in a second. Mr. Barrett, you said you'd like to speak to the motion. Go ahead, sir.
Chair, it's a bit like Groundhog Day when it comes to this scandal with Randy Boissonneau, and it continues to both get headlines but concern Canadians. And with respect to our obligation and our mandate under the Conflict of Interest Act and the obligations of that minister to abide by it. And we've had appearances at this committee by the minister, by his business partners, and the minister claimed that he was not the person in question, that it was another Randy, that it wasn't him. But we have now new text messages or WhatsApp messages that are from Stephen Anderson from 2022, say, I just updated Felix and Randy, and we've got another, I won't tell Shauna and Felix and Randy yet. Now, while Mr. Anderson, the business partner, the 50% business partner with Justin Trudeau's minister from Edmonton, Randy Boissonneau, he claimed it was an autocorrect.
9 times.
9 times. But we now have more messages, so it would have to be more than 9 times. But in none of those 9 instances, nor in the new documents, does anyone ask, oh, who do you mean? Because I'm not familiar with that name. Oh, is that a typo? Is it someone else? No, they say it's Randy. Now, Randy has said that he's not the Randy in question. But we also have confirmation that there was no other Randy who worked at this firm. So we later learned that when the Liberal minister from Edmonton had said that he couldn't have communicated with his business partner Stephen Anderson on the dates in question, he was at a Liberal cabinet retreat, and he was in a room impenetrable by electronic communications, and his phone was locked in a box and buried under the building. Well, he did actually exchange text messages and have a phone call with his business partner, Stephen Anderson. So it's another example where we see that this Liberal minister is not being truthful. We also know that while he was a 50% owner of the company, they won a contract with the government of Canada. Well, he was sitting around the cabinet table. Of course, none of these things are acceptable, but what is of paramount importance is that when we have an issue like we did with Mr. Anderson, who this committee did vote by majority to send to the House, that he had been in contempt and had prevaricated when he was here, and the Speaker has ruled on that. Well, now we have an issue of a similar nature with respect to the minister. So I'm not today looking for the committee to take a decision on if there's been a contempt by the minister, but I do think that we need information about this. And while these text messages or WhatsApp messages add a new dimension to what this committee's dealing with, it comes down to whether or not the minister was honest when he testified at this committee. But there's a story in the National Post today that says, Liberal minister's former business questioned over Indigenous claims in government contract bids. And it's highly suspicious at best, but at worst, it's fraud. And so, while that issue is one that perhaps we can discuss another day, it does certainly speak to the apparent dishonesty by the minister.
Point of order is being abused and being turned into something of an open mic night where people can just chime in however they feel. And Mr. Biddle in particular, abusing the virtual aspect of this, where, when he's here in person, he's slunking around, doesn't make a lot of noise. Now he's just unmuting himself whenever he feels like, throwing in jibes and comments, and he's not being corrected. He's done this while Mr. Brock is speaking. You've not even addressed him at all when he interrupts and just throws things.
That, colleagues, are the words of Arnold Viersen, who you so passionately asked that he present this bill.
Yes, Mr. Maloney, I believe it was. Or no, I'm sorry. Mr. Biddle?
Thank you so much. I just want to clarify that though it was well spoken, Mr. Brock is embarrassed to bring his colleague to say those actual things before this committee. We can continue with witnesses if Mr. Viersen comes.
This is clearly debate.
Okay.
I look forward to hearing
Thank you.
Mr. Biddle when his time comes on the speaking list.
I think I have the floor, Madam Speaker. Mr. Keurig is
It's not a point of order,
I think that's
Chair.
that's unfortunate.
Okay.
A point of order, Madam
Thank
Chair.
you, Mr. Biddle. Mr. Brock, the floor is yours.
I find it.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Hey gang, what's up? Aaron right here, Canadian Looney. Point of order. These committee meetings, guys, nothing quite like them. We've got this one from the Justice Committee. So the chair of this one is Lena Diab, and there are so many Liberals with ridiculous points of order. Larry Brock can't even get 2 words out without a foolish point of order. We've got Frank Drouin interrupting in here. We've got that loser James Maloney, trash, creep. We've got, what do we have out here, guys? What do we see out here? I think that's a seal. Anyways, never know what you're gonna find. Yeah, Larry Brock can't get any words out without a stupid point of order from one of these loser Liberals. And Lena Diab is the worst chair. I think she's worse than Hedy Fry. Twitch, and so full of herself, it's obnoxious and ridiculous.
That, colleagues, are the words of Arnold Viersen, who you so passionately asked that he present this bill.
Yes, Mr. Maloney, I believe it was. Or no, I'm sorry. Mr. Biddle?
Thank you so much. I just want to clarify that though it was well spoken, Mr. Brock is embarrassed to bring his colleague to say those actual things before this
Chair?
committee. We can
That is
continue
debate.
with witnesses
Okay.
if Mr. Pearson comes.
MP Biddle is another waste of space. Like, who does not dislike this guy? Just interrupting Larry for spite. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous.
This is
Thank-
clearly debate.
Okay.
I look forward to hearing
Thank you.
Mr. Biddle when his time comes on the speaking list.
I think I have the floor, Madam Speaker. Mr. Keurig is
It's not a point of
interrupting, and
order,
I think that's
Chair.
I think that's unfortunate.
Okay.
A point of order, Madam
Thank
Chair.
you, Mr. Biddle. Mr. Brock, the floor is
You know,
yours.
I find it,
Point of order, Madam Chair.
I'm going to ask, because there's quite a few numbers virtual, I'm going to ask you to please put your lights on or your hands up, not lights, I guess, your virtual hand up so that I can properly recognize you. And if I don't recognize you, I'll get help from the table here. If I don't see you, I'll do my best to do that. But please don't speak because there's several of you speaking at the same time. So that I can visually be able to monitor both those that are virtual as well as those that are in the room in person. Mr. Maloney, I know you have your virtual hand up, so please go ahead.
Thank you. It seems we're making some progress. We now have what appears to be Mr. Vierson's view on his own bill, but I'm now wondering now if Mr. Brock will provide Mr. Vierson so we can ask him some questions on that speech.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm going to,
either.
I'm going to ask Mr. Brock to continue with his
Thank you.
intervention.
and I invite the Liberal bench and the NDP bench and the Bloc, if they wish, point of order me all you want. Ultimately, it's just going to delay the number of hours that I have set aside for this intervention. So if you want me to speak till 11:30, continue to interrupt because that's how long it's going to take for me to complete the intervention.
So-
And then maybe,
So, Mr. Brock,
Yes.
give me a minute. I have Mr. Biddle with his virtual hand up.
Thank you so much. I'd just like to clarify that Mr. Brock is acknowledging that he'd rather speak 12 hours than have Mr. Vierson come. That's
Madam
how
Chair, this is not
he
point of
about
order.
Mr. Vierson and how ashamed the
Point of
Conservative
order.
Party is.
Madam Chair, you have to stop him. This is not a point of
About-
order.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
And again, I'm
Biddle.
being shouted down during my point of order, which is shocking.
No.
That's how embarrassed they are.
Mr. Keurig, you have your virtual hand up. And just before you do that, please in the room as well, please put your hand up or just so that I can acknowledge you so that I can't, because it's pretty hard for me to look both on the screen as well as every single person. And now I have Mr. Keurig's turn.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And I actually have a point of order. Unlike the previous intervention, I would ask for for the benefit of those of us who are virtual, I would ask, Madam Chair, that you share what the speaking list is. That would be most helpful for those of us who are.
Okay, that's fabulous. Yes, I will. Thank you. I have Député Fortin et le prochain. Et après,
Mr. Fortin is next.
I had Mr. Lawrence, but I am informed by the table that you are not on the members anymore. And then I have Mr. Giovanni, because
Before I can, point of order, before I can be removed in accordance with the Order 115, it would have to be expressed in the motion of a will of the committee for me not to be able to speak. So that's inappropriate and actually a violation of my privilege. Please put me back on the list.
no, I mean, but you,
Point of order,
I think
put me
we
back
had
on the list
read-
in accordance with 115. Do
I
your
haven't
job.
removed you yet,
Point of order,
but you
Madam
are
Chair.
an extra member right now because Mr. Keurig was subbed in for Ms. Ferrari.
And for a member that's
Yeah.
not subbed in accordance with Rule 115 and 116, I am still allowed to speak unless the committee has expressed its will. And so I therefore get to stay until the committee has said, in the form of a motion, that I am not to speak unless I'm subbed in. And they have not done that, so I shall stay on the list.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. If the committee decides otherwise, then that's fine. Yep. Oh, so I was reading who's on the list. I think that's all I had. Mr. Kirk, did you have your hand up to be also put on the list? I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. In my initial intervention, I had requested, I think it was about 50 minutes ago.
So I haven't put anyone else, haven't put anybody in since you've been in, so you're on the list now. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
I do apprepate that.
You're very welcome.
Back in the
Thanks.
record, about 45 minutes ago, I'd requested to do so, but I appreciate you and the work that you and the clerk are doing to help keep things running here.
Doing our best. Thanks for appreciating that. So, Mr. Brock, back to you.
So before I was interrupted again by a point of order from Mr. Biddle, I have lost track how many points of order that he has made. And all he has done, Madam Chair, is engaged in debate. So I just telegraphed to Mr. Biddle and his team that the more they stop proceedings and allow me to not continue with my intervention, ultimately it's just going to delay the amount of time that I have set aside. I've got numerous articles that I want to speak to, as well as describing experiences. So see, we have a point of order again.
Just make sure you,
Perhaps
okay, I see the virtual hand.
The first one. Perhaps it's maybe the first point of order,
Having
not debate.
difficulty recognizing who's trying to get my attention because there's too many of you. So just please, please maintain, my role is to try and maintain order as best as I can. So help me out, members. I recognize you're all men and I am a woman, but just give me a bit of break. The ladies that are in the room are being fabulous. So thank you very much for that. Mr. Biddle, I do recognize your virtual hand. So please go ahead.
Thank you very much. As we have gone through, repetition is not appropriate. Mr. Brock is intentionally repeating himself. Point of orders or not, that's not an excuse. Despite how ashamed and embarrassed he is to have Mr. Beerson come, he cannot be repeating himself, and that is a violation of the standing orders.
Mr. Lawrence, I know you have your hand up. Can I just suspend for a minute or two? I just want to review the rules for a second with respect to extra members, because you are still an extra member. So just give me a moment.
Could I just?
Let's get the members back. Failing anyone's hand up, I'm just going to say, Mr. Brock, can you continue? Because I don't know where
I'd
we
love
were.
to, without interruption. Absolutely, I'd love to, Madam Chair.
Do your best.
Thank you.
Is Mr. Biddle okay with that?
Yeah, well, it depends on Mr. Biddle. I think the only thing that's shameful and embarrassing is the way that he's conducted himself with unnecessary points of order.
Point of order.
Now, he also indicated, which I touched a nerve.
Hold on, my lights was not on. Mr. Biddle, I'm recognizing you.
Personal attacks are not allowed under the standing orders. I guess Mr. Brock is so embarrassed by Mr. Beerson, he's going to engage in personal attacks against me, even though I've conducted myself under the standing orders. He's the one that's repeating himself, delaying it, and preventing Mr. Beerson and ultimately this study from proceeding.
Of order, Chair. So, Chair,
Mr.
I want to seek clarification because this is Mr. Biddle's game. This is what he does. Despite myself, other members of the Conservative team voicing concerns that every one of Mr. Biddle's points of order were in fact debate and not points of order, I have yet to hear any direction from you, Madam Chair, who are charged with the responsibility of determining the validity or the lack thereof of points of order. So from this point forward, because if we continue at this pace, perhaps we're going to be here all next week with me continuing my intervention and listening to Mr. Biddle again, trying to debate. He will have the opportunity at some point. I don't even know if his name's on the list. But what he likes to do is to distract, divide, and confuse. That's his game. And that's petty politics.
I'm under someone's
And that brings me to the original point I was making about the liberal game with respect to this particular study. So I'm asking you, Madam Chair,
go ahead.
to please exercise rulings and determine whether points of order are legitimate or not legitimate. Thank
Okay.
you.
Will do so. I have Mr. Maloney's hand, and then I have MP Drouin's hand up. So I just would like to hear everybody first. Thank you. I appreciate that. MP Maloney?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Look, I have the greatest of respect.
Good on Larry Brock for putting up with these liberals. It's very frustrating to watch. Lena Diab is a mess. And these liberals, shut up, James Maloney. Nobody likes listening to you.
For Mr. Biddle. I also have a great deal of respect for Mr. Brock. It is completely unnecessary and totally inappropriate to be casting aspersions at another member and imputing motive. Like, we're all professionals here. What does come to mind is the old saying, pot calling the kettle black. But I think that perhaps Mr. Brock, I know Mr. Brock thinks that relevance is subjective, but if he's going to start asking the chair for rulings on every single intervention, he's going to be interrupted by, more frequently, not only by Mr. Biddle, but by every other member in this committee. The point is, look, I don't think Mr. Biddle is doing anything inappropriate. He is addressing issues of relevance. He's trying to keep his conduct professional, as he always does. And I think Mr. Brock's comments towards him are not only 100% wrong, they're completely inappropriate. And I hope we can rise above that moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Maloney. And my list has grown, and it's all on the point of order, so that's great. I'd love to hear them all. I will go with Mr. Drouin, Monsieur Drouin. Après ça, we have...
After Mr. Drouin, we have Mr. Giovanni, and then Mr. Lawrence.
More, but
Madam
please,
Chair,
Mr.
as I
Drouin.
listened attentively to Mr. Brock's argument, I'm just wondering if he could explain to this committee the rationale he was posing in terms of a member making a statement in the House, and therefore they don't need to appear. And I'm just wondering if that was the same logic that the member from Perth Wellington, who spoke on S227 and sponsored S227 and was not afraid to appear before a committee. And I would ask him whether or not he's had a discussion with Mr. John Nader, who had the courage to appear before a committee, a parliamentary committee, to testify on a bill that he's sponsoring himself. I would assume that Mr. Viersen would have the same courage.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm not familiar with the S227, but point taken. MP Giovanni, please.
I think Mr. Brock's point is that the point of order is being abused and being turned into something of an open mic night where people can just chime in however they feel. And Mr. Biddle in particular abusing the virtual aspect of this, where, when he's here in person, he's slunking around, doesn't make a lot of noise. Now he's just unmuting himself whenever he feels like throwing in jibes and comments, and he's not being corrected. He's done this while Mr. Brock is speaking. You've not even addressed him at all when he interrupts and just throws things. If we were doing that in here, you would say something. He's abusing the virtual format, and I think he needs to be corrected, Madam Chair.
So thank you for your comments, and I do recognize members are now waiting to be acknowledged, whether it's virtually or in the room, so I appreciate that. Thank you very much. No, they've all been acknowledging that. So, Mr. Lawrence, and I do see virtually Mr. Couric, you'd be next, and then I see Madame Dillon après vous. Alors, Mr. Lawrence, s'il vous plaît.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you rightfully pointed out, it is your responsibility to maintain order and decorum, and that looks increasingly difficult. And so you have my condolences with respect to that responsibility. You rightfully called me out earlier for talking too loud with Mr. Drouin, and you were completely within your rights, and I apologize for causing any distraction. But I will say that there has been as Mr. Giovanni has said and Mr. Brock has said, there has been a pattern of Mr. Maloney and Mr. Biddle creating fake points of order that are equally, if not more distracting than having a sidebar conversation with a colleague. And so I have seen in other committees, I'm not going to tell you how to do your job, that would be presumptuous, but I've certainly seen in other committees where there is a pattern, the chair will make sure that the individual starts with a rule that they're citing that's a point of order. And before they are allowed to commence, they have to cite that rule. And I think that that might be a fair practice. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Courik.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And, I look forward to continuing to hear what Mr. Brock has to say and the specificity in which he is addressing the very important issues related to Bill C-270 and the motion that Mr.
Moral, right here in Romp Room. Bing bong, knock knock, hey now you. Bing bong, tick tock, viva.
And that is definitely not accurate. I am the chair. You will have to respect me or leave, number one. Two, I have been here. I have listened since May, when all the witnesses have come on both studies. I have taken it in. All the emotions that have come from the witnesses, from staff, from members, and I'm still standing here. So I deserve the respect as the chair. These are not easy studies.
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
Oh, yeah.
I did hear the Liberal minister's answer, and I do feel bad for the Liberal minister because he's out here selling a generation that he is part of, a bunch of policies from the Prime Minister that have failed our time. Justin Trudeau is talking about me today. Now, during a speech to his Liberal caucus, Trudeau referred to me as a twofer.
And now, Pierre Poilievre's new candidate in Durham is a twofer.
Now, I'm not exactly sure what that means in reference to a human being. I'm also not sure how the Prime Minister has time to be name-calling when he should be trying to save his failed administration. But I thought I would take this as an opportunity to introduce myself, since you certainly can't take Justin Trudeau's word for it.
It's not a very nice day here. November 11th, Remembrance Day. For some reason, the weather is always crappy on Remembrance Day. What a weird thing. It's too bad. Anyhow, guys, just Aaron here, Canadian Looney, going out for a stroll. The weather isn't great, but yeah, we want to have a quick chat, I guess. I'm gonna try to make a fun video today. Will make the Liberals look as stupid as they are. They're brutal, gang. The Liberals, the lying tactics of this woke cult, yeah, it's bullshit. It's got to go. Anyhow, we're going to try to have some fun here and show some of our favorite conservatives. Like, let's kick it off with Jamil Javani. This guy is a stud. I believe he's a lawyer, well-educated. Quite a story behind this guy. Anyways, let's take a peek at Jamil Javani. Anyhow, we're going to walk down here to the waterfront. Hopefully it's not going to be too windy out there. We'll see. A little bit of a breeze here. Anyways, Jamil Javani is amazing. There are so many great conservatives that we'd like to watch here.
Madam Speaker, after 9 years, the Prime Minister has doubled the cost of housing and put an entire generation of Canadians through housing hell. Right. But who does he have any empathy for? His buddy from Bell Media, Tom Clark. The Prime Minister used $9 million of taxpayer money to purchase a luxury condo for Tom Clark in Manhattan, in a neighborhood called Billionaires Row. When will the NDP Liberals finally stop the abuse of taxpayer dollars and fire Tom Clark?
Yeah. The Honourable Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
While the Conservative members of Parliament are focused on distractions, we're focused on delivering housing for Canadians who live in this country. Madam Speaker, we are currently in a debate with the Conservatives based on their big commitment to cut billions of dollars from housing directly to communities right across this country. We know on this side of the House that it takes investments to build housing so we can make it easier to build. We can make housing more affordable. What is the Conservative solution? Cut, cut, cut. Madam Speaker, we have a long history of Conservative cuts to housing. It's part of the reason we're facing a housing crisis today. We will make the investments necessary to deliver affordability to Canadians.
Just want to remind members to please settle down a little bit, because I'm sure that the honourable member who's going to do a follow-up question wanted to hear the answer properly so that he can ask his question properly. The honourable for Durham.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I did hear the Liberal minister's answer, and I do feel bad for the Liberal minister because he's out here selling a generation that he is part of, a bunch of policies from the Prime Minister that have failed our time. They have failed our people, and he's got a tough job ahead of him to even rationalize what is going on in this government. But let's be very clear. Tom Clark, the Prime Minister's buddy from Bell Media, said that the housing he had in Manhattan required immediate replacement. This government then went on to spend $9 million of taxpayer money to get him a condo in Billionaires Row. When will they stop abusing the tax?
The Honourable Minister. The Honourable Secretary of Foreign Affairs.
Jamil Javani is the man. There's no doubt. Like, fun to watch, really sharp. Here's Jamil Javani in committee. Like, he's one of the best, for sure. And these Liberals don't have an answer for a guy like Jamil Javani. Like, they just don't. They seem pretty clueless when it comes to Jamil Javani.
A question just to get some clarification on that. Yeah.
Because I would just like to confirm.
Stepped out for a bit, but go ahead.
I just want to confirm, though, that this framing that is happening right now, that somehow the timetable is contingent on a particular witness coming forward, the timing actually does not hinge on that. That this timetable, we could just start studying this, and we don't have to actually wait for a specific witness. Is that correct?
All I'm saying is that if you want an extension, it has to be at the latest on the Monday. The rest on just to manage how sponsor will come or not.
So,
But I can answer that.
Mr. Giovanni's question is, which I believe the answer is no, we have no time, but the fourth is we can't study it beyond that because we've lost the time.
No, I understand. So what I'm saying is, let's just study it then. What's being presented today is, I believe, a false framing, which is why I'm asking for confirmation, that somehow we need a particular witness to agree to appear in order for us to commit to studying this. And what I'm saying is, can we not just commit to studying it? Why is there any delay?
But we still need the 30-day extension because we've now lost the time. Whether he appears or not is a secondary issue. But we need the 30-day extension because we've now lost the time.
Thank you. But
We
whether
have no
he appears
time
or not
anymore.
is secondary.
And it's 30 days, 30
Gotcha.
sitting days. Isn't that how it's worded? Yeah. Otherwise, no, it cannot be studied anymore. I had an original, I don't know where we go from here.
We have a health break for 5 to 10 minutes, so I can
Yes.
consult with my team, please. Thank you.
Yes, we will take a few minute break. Thank you.
Trudeau is such a racist, fake feminist. Anyway.
And now, Pierre Poilievre's new candidate in Durham is a twofer.
Now, anyways, Jamil Javani is amazing. There are so many great Conservatives that we like to watch here. Melissa Lantsman's a fun girl to watch for sure. Like, Melissa is in charge in the House of Commons and in these committees. Let's take a peek at her taking a piece off of, what's her name? Lena Diab. She's the chair of the Justice Committee, and she is such a mess. Anyways, let's take a peek at Melissa Lantsman ripping her up. Melissa's a fun one to watch. Let's go.
came here to this committee to talk about. And since then, since that study on anti-Semitism, we've seen gunshots into schools in this country. We've seen fire bombings into businesses. We've seen Stats Canada reports that say that 70% of the hate crimes in this country are targeted at less than 2% of the population. And right now, what people watching at home see is that...
Madame la Présidente, en quoi?
Madam Chair, how is that tied to the motion we have on the table? We're asking for a 30-day extension. Not that Mr. Vierson necessarily be the first person to appear, but that we go through the list of witnesses, and so that we'll be able to study it.
Interrupt a conversation about the anti-Semitism study that you're supposed to be having in committee, calling relevance on it? That is worse than this government's inaction on anti-Semitism. Are you actually serious?
Come on now. This is not how we run our committee.
I've
Mr.
actually not
Housefather?
only sat in the meetings, I've actually been sitting in on the report, which that member has not been doing. We're waiting to do that report. We're all here to do that report. It's you guys that are filibustering and stopping us from dealing with the anti-Semitism report. You should be ashamed.
Madam Chair, this is debate.
We'd have this report done.
You voted against his motion.
He has
You
no
voted in
motion.
favor of his motion to delay the report.
You're filibustering a discussion to have a study that is your own private
Madam Chair, this is my speaking time.
Okay, let's get back to order. Let's be clear here. There was one motion that was put, which every member voted for. And then we moved on to a second motion to extend for 30 days to bring witnesses in. And all I hear is language and talk about other things that may or may not be relevant. So, Ms. Lansman, the floor is to you, but I know you just came in, so it's 12:37 here in Ottawa. I know you haven't been here for the first
I've been
hour and a half.
watching, you can watch this online.
You
and
can.
That's
Yeah.
what I was doing in my office,
But-
and that's why I came here to speak to this, because I was expecting the committee to study an anti-Semitism report, just like everybody else who is watching this committee today, just like those witnesses that came here to testify, and just like the members opposite who are pretending that they want to actually, for once, take anti-Semitism seriously in this country. 70% of the hate crimes
Okay,
in
Ms.
this country.
Lansman, that is out of order, and that is definitely not accurate. I am the chair. You will have to respect me or leave, number one. Two, I have been here. I have listened since May, when all the witnesses have come on both studies. I have taken it in. All the emotions that have come from the witnesses, from staff, from members, and I'm still standing here. So I deserve the respect as the chair. These are not easy studies, and we would like to conclude them. I agree with you, and I agree with all of you. So I am asking for you to all see a way to do that. If you would like to take a 5-minute break, I have no problem to do that if you think we can come to a conclusion.
Point of order.
Mr. Brock.
Madam Chair, I wholly respect your authority with respect to this committee, but you have absolutely no standing and no privilege to exclude a member and ask them to leave. She is duly elected, and you do not possess the powers to force her to leave this committee.
Point well taken, thank you. But I also expect every member to respect the position of the chair.
And likewise, I ask the chair to exercise neutrality, as chairs are expected to do, notwithstanding your affiliation to the Liberal Party of Canada, and allow members latitude to get their point across without unnecessary interruptions.
Point of order, Madam Chair. Look, the suggestion that the chair has in any way been impartial at any point during today's meeting or any of these proceedings is factually incorrect, Mr. Brock. And I think that other members of this committee will agree with me on that point too. So to bring partisan politics into an accusation against a chair like that is completely unfounded. That's exactly.
I was reminding her.
So listen, I appreciate that, Mr. Maloney. I really do, and I appreciate Mr. Brock, but he wasn't And if he was, it would be ridiculous based on how I act in this committee or any other committee. So let's move on. I'm okay with it now. Ms. Lanceman, I'll give you back the floor, but please try and be relevant.
I'm going to continue because I couldn't get a point out before you called irrelevance on me, Madam Chair. And I know that you may not like the facts of the matter, but that doesn't mean that you can censor a member and in any way ask a member of the House of Commons to leave a committee. I think that's out of line, and I'm going to put that on the record. All of that to say is that we were going to get to a study on anti-Semitism, where members of this committee heard from witnesses from across the country, and I'll make my point again because I was interrupted a number of times, and since that study, we have only seen this issue get worse in this country. So it is astounding to me that members of this committee who were part of that study, who purport to take this issue seriously, don't want to get to this study. So as such, and to prove that, first of all, I don't have to prove that the issue has gotten worse in this country because it has. All you have to do is look at the encampments on university campuses, the shootings in cities, the violence in the streets. But since the committee doesn't want to get there, I have a motion to prove to everybody at home that this committee is blocking the study of the anti-Semitism.
We have a motion already on the table.
And I have a motion, and I'm allowed to put a motion down, Madam Chair.
Wait now, just give me a minute. Confer, just give me a minute. You cannot put a motion on the floor if we have a motion already.
Oh. I will then ask for unanimous consent to move that the committee proceed to the consideration of the draft report on anti-Semitism and additional measures that could be taken to address the valid fears that are being expressed by Canada's Jewish community, and ones that have been expressed by Canada's Jewish community since that. So I'll ask for unanimous consent to move to this motion to show everybody at home that this party is not serious about this issue, that this government hasn't taken this issue seriously.
I'm going to suspend for a few minutes to get clarification as to whether you're even allowed to do that. So suspend a few minutes.
Another one of my favorites here to watch is Michelle Ferreri. She's amazing. Slippery out here, actually. Anyway, Michelle Ferreri is the bomb. Let's take a peek. She's battling this Lena Diab, who is a troll, guys. The worst MP, maybe in the Liberal backbench. Like, there's a lot of them. Iker Plea comes to mind. It is slippery out here, guys. I can feel it underneath my feet. Slippery as hell. Oh, what a day, what a day. Little bit of a breeze, not too bad. Pretty good. Look, Kennedy and Geese. Can we see them? Have to zoom in on that name.
Ms. Ferreri, please.
So what I was saying at the beginning, where, you know, obviously the Liberals want to interrupt me, I get it. They don't want to hear this. They don't want this public. They don't want the record of their prime minister, which, quite frankly, most of them don't support. All you have to do is go to question period and see the empty benches and see what's happening. You know, that is the reality. And so the tweet of gagging is so hypocritical when you have literally a guy. Listen, this is the former parliamentary secretary to the prime minister who was on record just days ago saying this man is a full-blown narcissist and a dictator. Like, that is what you're dealing with. And then this Liberal member has the audacity to say you're being gagged by our leader. I want to talk about the bill at hand, because this comes back to the public safety crisis that's been created in this country underneath the Liberal and NDP. So the bill is the enactment amends the criminal code to prohibit a person from making, distributing, or advertising pornographic material for commercial purposes without having first ascertained that at the time the material was made, each person whose image is depicted in the material was 18 years of age or older and gave their express consent to their image being depicted. And, you know, that comes back to everybody says, what's the relevance of what you're talking about? This is the Justice Committee, and the stats, just go outside. This is what I can't stress enough, Madam Chair. So, you know, they've made their position clear of what they're trying to stop here, and it has nothing to do with justice being served in this country. It has nothing to do with the public safety crisis that has happened under the watch of Justin Trudeau and his incompetent ministers. That is the reality of what we're saying. Trafficking in persons is up 84%. And there is a direct link to all of this and young men being exposed to pornography. So of course we want to study this. So I'm going to come back to the anti-Semitism that my colleague, Mr. Brock, has put forward in a dilatory motion, that we get back to studying this, because clearly the Liberals have no interest in actually delving into the justice that has been just destroyed in this country and the public safety that's been destroyed. And I want to reiterate again, and I hope that we could have the support of the folks across the way, because what we've seen is we've had two studies happening in this committee on Islamophobia and anti-Semitism, and clearly these members of Parliament, much like the Liberal whole caucus, are not talking to each other. And again, I will read this into the record. Data reveals anti-Semitic hate crimes are up 400% after 9 years of Justin Trudeau. 2/3 of all hate crimes are against Jews in Canada. When will Justin Trudeau finally take anti-Semitism seriously? And that is a direct tweet from my friend and colleague and fierce Jewish advocate, Marty Morantz. And so that is what we would ask here today for the dilatory motion of that to get to.
Back inside. Try it. Oh. We kind of got it. My name's Aaron, Canadian Looney. It's not a great day to be outside. Like, share, subscribe. We're trying to make interesting videos, trying to have a little bit of fun, show the really pretty community that I live in. It's a couple doors down from my house. Beautiful here. Canadian politics, it's not beautiful, so we try to mix those up. Aaron, Canadian Looney. Like, share, subscribe, get notified. That's it. Come and join in one of the chats. We do a lot of live shows, and they're fun. Come and take part. Catch you next time, Aaron, Canadian Looney. Later, gang. How about Melissa Lantsman, guys? Let's take a peek at some of the best pieces that she's shown in committee recently. She fought this crazy old bag, Lena Diab, who's a rotten Liberal backbencher, chair of this Justice Committee. Just watch this chick in action. Absolutely disgusting. She's gross. Lena Diab, you've got to go. Gonna wrap it up right there, guys. The 20% of people that maybe would still consider voting Liberal do not follow politics, which is a part of the Liberal playbook. Like, be as disgusting as you can so that people don't watch. The cognitive dissonance, the hypocrisy in the Liberal Party is palpable, man. They clear out a room. No one even knows what to say back to the lies and mistruths that they're telling. Every single Liberal that I watch seems worse than the last one until the next one. Got a big issue with Anita Vanderbilt today.
Shame on you. I'm done. This is about protecting. Can't do this anymore. No wonder nothing gets done in this country. Over our bodies. Shame on you. And I want to state from a survivor's perspective, Trudeau doesn't care, Ford doesn't care, Arif doesn't care, and the government doesn't care. Leader of the opposition has asked Conservative chaired committees to hold as many meetings as possible during the summer to take us away from the important work that we're doing listening to our constituents. And we also know that in this case, it was a few days' notice. We were not given, any of the members except Conservatives, the opportunity to put forth witness names.
Megan Walker, a longtime advocate for women, says she's never seen anything like this, and if Liberals wanted to pick their own witnesses, they could vote for more meetings instead of derailing this one. She was especially critical of Vandenbeld.
She has betrayed women and girls across this country who are hopeful that one day there will be change. One day they will not have to walk through their communities in fear. One day they will be considered to be human beings instead of objects.
Kate Alexander was to testify 3 years to the day after she was brutally assaulted by an ex-partner, suffering wounds so severe she feared she wouldn't survive. The charges against him were stayed due to the time it took to go to trial.
I said in my testimony, this government doesn't care, and she literally proved my point.
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
Oh, yeah.
Hey gang, what's up? Aaron right here, Canadian Looney. Shameless bullies. These Liberals are repulsive. In this video, we're going to take a look at the disaster that this worthless tramp, Anita Vanderbilt, is. She's a disgusting human being. I don't mean physically, she is that way too, but it's her way of being, I guess, that is the worst part. She pulls stunts. She obviously hates women. Most women are great. I don't even consider this specimen, this scourge, this bully, this cry wolf, a woman. I don't consider her a human. She's something else. She's a Liberal caucus Kool-Aid cult member. Like, you can see, again, another one of these swollen, disgusting life forms, taking away the good things we had in Canada and never wants to give them back. It's unforgivable. On a lighter note, we've got Michelle Ferreri, one of our favorite MPs. This is a politician that I do trust. She's a real person. You can see her frustration with the tactics that this cow, Anita Vandenbeld, is presenting. Who in the hell voted for this chick? Like, she has nothing to offer. Obviously, she can't even control her diet. How much Kool-Aid did you drink? What are they putting in that Kool-Aid? Oh, it's a lot to handle.
We'll give the floor to Miss Alexander to start. You have 5 minutes.
Fortunate to be here today. I'm supposed to be dead. On July 31st, 2021, exactly 3 years ago today, I sent the 2-word WhatsApp message, "Please help," to a friend who thankfully believed me. My ex was beating me. All 6'3", approximately 250 pounds of him, because he couldn't find his car keys. For 4 hours, with his fists, his feet, a wooden rolling pin, door wells, he split my head open in 3 places, gouged my eyes out with his thumbs, kicked my ribs, and tortured me in ways I can feel but can't fully describe. I do not know how my body survived it. My ex enjoyed what he did to me. He threatened to kill my family. The police were going to leave me for dead, but my former neighbor intervened. And after all that, guess what your criminal and justice system gave me? A peace bond. All 8 charges, 5 in the provincial and 3 in the federal, were stayed against my ex. And I can't say his name because it will forever be known as alleged abuse. I ask of you exactly what I asked Justice Himmel, who had the tears in her eyes on March 26, 2024, when I received the peace bond. Why does he abuse and why is he allowed to get away with it? He abuses because he is publicly and personally rewarded for it, and he is allowed to get away with it because you, the government of Canada, lets him. Abuse is a choice, a moral failing, and it is also inexcusable. Even 3 years later, my ex is still abusing me. I am suing him as the only form of legal justice I have left, and he has put in a meritless counterclaim as a continuation of abuse against me. He states I was self-injurious and I stole his Rolex after. He is lying under oath. You will listen to me because I am Caucasian, educated, and a member of an industry which holds space in the public eye. But these issues have been plaguing people everywhere across the nation for so long in the dark corners. But now we are in the light. We will shine until there is retribution. We will break the stigmas down into the nothingness that they are. There are no stereotypical victims. There are only stereotypical abusers. IPV and SA happens in all cultures, all socioeconomic statuses, races, ages, genders, but so predominantly with women and children. Today is not about me. Today is about us and what this means going forward. You have granted me the honor of speaking on behalf of all men, women, non-binary, and children, survivors of violence. And I want to state from a survivor's perspective, Trudeau doesn't care, Ford doesn't care, Arif doesn't care, and the government doesn't care. The government doesn't care about Courtney Goudreau, who faced potential charges and jail time for speaking the name of her convicted abuser when a publication ban was implemented without her consent. The government doesn't care about Brian and Suzanne Sweeney, whose daughter Angie was shot to death along with 3 innocent children. Brett and Jessica.
And in other news, my name is EhrenEmm. We have a channel called Question Period Canada, but this is in other news.
Hey everyone, quiet down. There's a bulletin on TV. And now for this news flash.